everyone, welcome to Ask an Armourer. My name's Kia, and today I'm going to do another episode of Ask Another Armourer for you, and I brought my friend Phoenix on today to talk about her experience as an armourer. Phoenix and I have been friends for a number of years and actually met completely unrelated to fencing, so it was a wonderfully pleasant surprise when I realized that not only we were both in this sport, but also into the tinkering armory side of things as well. So, Phoenix, thank you so much for coming on and being willing to share your story with us. How are you?
Thank you for the intro, Kia. I'm doing well.
All right, so we are going to start. Let's start just with your beginning history, a little bit of background about your armory. What level armorer are you now, and how long have you been doing armory?
So I've never actually taken the official qualification exams. It always conflicted with school or exams, or I had to go somewhere else. But I have been doing armory for about 8 years now, pre-pandemic at a university level. Ever since the pandemic and stay-at-home order, it's been on pause, and I watch enviously as Kia does all her continued armory things.
Well, continued being a single tournament that I've been able to do so far, so real continuous. So let me, drill a little bit more into that. How long have you considered yourself an armorer, and what level, I say level, do you mostly take care of club stuff, or do you work tournaments as well?
Yeah, so primarily I would be a club armorer. However, I have done some tournaments. I posted and done both university OUA styled tournaments as well as a couple open tournaments. There's something that really makes you alive after that morning rush of the equipment checking. I started off in Armory as an apprentice to take over the university club. So that put me, things happened, and within a month my apprenticeship kind of failed, and I was running everything by myself due to health issues of other members, and steep learning curve, but I learned a lot more very quickly because of that.
It is amazing how many of us had a steep learning curve because we got into this through necessity as opposed to a nice actual training program. Which I guess segues well into the next question is, so how did you get into armory at the very beginning? So you've talked about just now your getting into it at the university level and how it was a little more accelerated than you might have anticipated. But what was the first time that you actually got into armory and when you realized that this was a thing, really?
Well, I actually started off as a fencer, like most of us, and I started off as a child fencer. But over the years of competitions, I noticed my health started declining. And what finally made me do the switch to armory was because I was diagnosed with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, and I was told to avoid all high impact sports, and as we know, fencing can be very high impact. So armory became kind of the safe haven for me to continue on with a sport that I really loved, but do it at a much easier capacity on my body and still have that team spirit and hang out with all my friends.
Got it. Well, it is a shame how much injuries will derail current plans, but we're quite delighted that you found your way here. And again, as you say, that ability to continue on with the sport in any sort of capacity. Like I've talked to multiple friends as well who are referees or in the secretariat or other official capacities like that. And yeah, it's pretty nice that we at least have that option. So then the final question that's within the background section of questions is, did you encounter any obstacles or difficulties in becoming an armorer, and how did you overcome those if you did encounter those?
Well, like I said, I kind of got to teach a lot of the armory things to myself. And back when I was doing that, I didn't have many resources to rely on. So it was more just calling in on friends, tinkering around, figuring stuff out yourself, learning a lot about circuitry and just like basic electronics engineering.
Cool. Well, thank you for that. So now let's go on into, for somebody else, like the flip side of this. We talked about how you became an armorer, and now your work as an armorer. So let's talk about what you would tell people who want to become armorers. So based on your experiences, what advice would you have for somebody who, say somebody comes to you and says, I want to get into armory, what advice would you have for them?
Well, so first of all, it would be just lots of encouragement, because it's such a fun activity. It really helps your problem solving skills. You can develop so many problem solving skills, and how to work and solve problems on the fly, just improv style. Because sometimes you're going to be at a tournament and you're going to run out of something and you're going to need to fix something. Or in our case, just like duct tape and electric tape goes a long way. But yeah, it's definitely a great way to tinker around, to learn basic circuitry, and to make lifelong friends. So the best advice for a newbie would be to just dive in and don't be afraid to ask for help.
So after that, what was it that surprised you most when you started doing armory? Like when you started repairing equipment? What was something that really surprised you about that? Oh. What surprised you, Princess?
I think Princess would agree with me that sometimes the best way to fix something is through percussive maintenance. You just got to give it a good thwack. Honestly, though, that is probably the first line of defense. For a lot of things breaking, it's, can you fix it with a good amount of pressure? And if so, is some wire circuitry problem broken inside? Because if it jiggles and stops working, I think you know where your problem is. More or less.
Re-jiggle it and get it to start working again.
Exactly. Can we fix it with some nail polish?
And then to follow up with that one, what surprised you most when you worked your first tournament?
So my first tournament happened so long ago that honestly it's blur. I don't really remember, other than there's this crazy rush and everything is just going on around you. And it kind of feels surreal, like you're in a movie, because you're on autopilot and you're just doing everything you can to make sure that it runs as smoothly as possible. You just kind of get lost in the moment, really. Can relate.
Can relate. Definitely know that moment of just my head is down. I am checking equipment as quickly as I possibly can while still being accurate. And just, I have no idea where the event is going. I don't know what the state of the line is. I'm just, give me your lame, give me your mask, give me your glove, give me your cords. Just, let's go. I have a system. Let's do it. Talk tools. So now that we get into the really interesting meat and potatoes kind of thing, what's in your toolbox? What is it that you cannot live without when you get to a tournament and you just have to make sure it's in the toolbox every single time?
Well, I think primarily it's just a never-ending trove of screwdrivers. Extra screws. You have to have all the screw sizes because you just never know. On that line, actually, those magnetic bowls, those are like God level because they collect all those little tiny, tiny screws that you think you lost. So definitely those things. Lots of tape, glue, nail polish. Never underestimate nail polish as a quick fix. Allen keys, tweezers, pliers. Also, a good knife is really good for getting rid of gunk or when you need to just pop something off. Sandpaper, safety goggles, gotta be safe for your eyes. Some wire cutters and strippers, elastics, and everything else that you think you don't need, but if you could fit it, you might need it at some point in time, like a hammer.
I think you nailed it there with the, even if you don't know if you'll need it, if you could fit it into the box, bring it anyways. That's a good philosophy. That's very, in a nutshell, I think, Armory philosophy on tools.
Yeah, totally. Also is, if you think you only need one, bring two.
That is very accurate, either for the first one fails, or in my case, when I'm bringing a trainee along, and to be like, okay, here's now your set to work with, and I still have one that I can work with, and we can get twice as much work done. This is great. So, do you have any wish list tools? What's missing from your toolbox at this point?
At this point, I think all my wish list tools are just fun tools that I covet that would be nice to have as something to even flex, like wearable tools. Like some screwdriver earrings, for instance. Or I actually noticed there's a couple rings that I saw recently, / a bracelet, and it's a multi-tool ring or bracelet, and there's a screwdriver on it with different heads.
Does it like flip out? Does it unwind? Like, how does that work?
It's like a Swiss Army knife that you can wear on your finger.
That's cool.
I want that. It's stupidly expensive, but I want that.
Well, of course, if you could fit that onto a ring, like that's a level of engineering right there that's frankly unnecessary, but very intriguing.
Exactly. So like I said, it's not necessarily a tool that I need, but it would be fun.
I did just say wish list. I did not say necessity. So, all right. So moving on then. So what is your absolute favorite and or the tool that you use the most? Because as we know, there are some tools that it's just like, I love this thing. And there's some tools that it's like, no, I really cannot function without this, even if I don't actually care about it that much. Oh, hello. Here we are.
I brought my tool belt with the essentials.
Cool. All right. Take us through it.
Definitely. Well, no, just one thing. Because, well, the most used tool is my 1mm common screwdriver. But my favorite tool is this multi-tool, which has everything. We got pliers, wire cutter, wire strippers, there's screwdrivers and saws and other saws and knives and more screwdrivers and tweezers.
Again, all of those itty bitty little things that we end up needing sometimes.
I suggest getting one of these. They're very fun.
So which one is it that you have right there? Like, do you have a particular recommendation of which one, or just any one that you find that works for you?
Anyone that you find, honestly. This seems to be from the engineering department of the university, so.
All right, there we go. Cool. Well, thank you. So do you want to show us the rest of the tools in your tool belt? So you've got much more of a like traditional workman's style one that goes all the way around.
Yes, well, my dad's an engineer, so many of the tools I have borrowed indefinitely, including the tool belt. But speaking of which, the funny thing is I can't find my screwdriver set right now because he was using it. So.
Oh, how the tables have turned.
Yeah. But definitely safety goggles. I don't know how many times I've had a spring fly into my face, so definitely safety goggles. You never have enough test boxes. Oh, and body wires or Franken wires. So those are some of the things, and I have more things that are currently being borrowed by other people.
But you know, once you're back to tournaments, you'll refill the tool belt to be exactly what it's supposed to be.
Well, we always, for our tool belts too, we always put the necessities, and then you have your big toolbox at wherever you're parked, and these holes are excellent for Allen keys.
Cool, well thank you for showing us all of that. Now let's switch a little bit more to not quite Armory specific, but Armory adjacent. So tell me, Phoenix, do you still fence? And if yes, what weapon? Or if you previously fenced, what weapon did you do?
So previously I was a foilist. I don't know when I am going to try fencing again. There are some cool, this is a completely different aspect though, but for our friends that are interested in accessibility, there have been some very interesting new tools that are available now. And one of them is called the Body Braid, not sponsored, but I'm considering trying them out. Because if that could let me fence again, that would be pretty exciting. But I don't think I'll ever do another tournament where I compete.
See, I was thinking you were meaning the new advances in portable wheelchair fencing technology.
Oh, yes.
Which is really something that I want to get a hold of so that we can make U of T fencing that much more accessible. Which, for those of you who don't know, basically it is the distancing system, but rather than requiring a wheelchair, it can clamp onto any chair that you have available. So, and also it is just the one adjustable bar. So it's a little easier to move around and to just keep on hand. So those I'm really trying to get my hands on too, so that I can have those available for our practices. All right, so thank you, Phoenix, for giving us a bit more insight into your philosophy and history of actual Armory, but I'd like to get to know you a little bit more personally. So what is it that you do when you're not in the Armory?
So I'm currently a PhD student at U of T at the Faculty of Medicine in the Department of Medical Biophysics. So I spend my days coding artificial intelligence for breast cancer diagnostics. And then when I'm not coding or at a computer, I am tending to plants for my bonsai shop.
So you mentioned that you do a lot of things that sound like they're really, really varied in the type of thing that they are and their style and everything. And you also, I'm assuming, have friends and family that you would like to see and hang out with, I mean, outside of COVID stuff, as well as there is general travel requirements when you're doing things. So how do you balance all of that? Like, is there a way that you decide what your priority is going to be, or how you're going to manage your time so that you can actually get to everything in a meaningful way?
Definitely the hard part is not spreading yourself too thin, because burnout sucks. And it's difficult in figuring out what makes you happiest. I think that was the hardest part. It's figuring out how many hours or how much time every single day you have to put aside just for me time, to fulfill your hobbies. And that is like the 1 or 2 hours that you put aside where you're not going to work at all, and you're only going to focus on your hobbies, because that's what helps keep you sane and happy, and it stops the burnout. And it comes down to, you really just have to say, I'm going to do this because it makes me happy, so I'm going to put aside even just 10 minutes a day to hand sew or embroider or do the fun thing that makes you happy. That's essentially my philosophy with balance and time management between family, work, school. It's a day only has a certain amount of times, and if you're a spoonie, it has even less. So how do you prioritize doing life your way?
Got it. So a lot of introspection and self-awareness required, but yeah, lots of things that we can all use in everyday life, everywhere, regardless of if you want to do armory or not. So what are your goals with Armory? What is it that you would love to be able to accomplish? It like level you would like to work, or just, I don't know, somebody you would like to meet? Do you have a specific goal in Armory, or is it just to keep doing the best you can with it?
A lot of it comes to just doing the best I can. I think if I have one goal, it's that if I can make one little girl see that, wow, this is really cool. I want to be just like that, or I want to go into engineering or armory or do something that's typically a very male-dominated field. I think if I could just convince one girl, I'd be ecstatic.
You know, it's amazing how even small seeming legacies like that can sometimes be incredibly huge impacts. So I like it. I like it a lot. Oop. Okay. Cool. Well, thank you for that. All right. So now we're going to get into the last section, I suppose, of questions that I have lovingly titled the shock factor, because these are purely for fun and purely just to give a bit of a sense of the variety of situations that we as armorers get to deal with. So let's just dive in with the first one. What is the strangest equipment failure, problem, whatever you want to call it, that you've ever experienced and had to deal with?
But I remember it wasn't even a tournament. It was just practice at the club, and it was a foil. And there's clearly a faulty wire connection in this foil, but we couldn't figure out what or where. So it would work 95% of the time. One time, it would either white light or just like do nothing. I remember for like weeks we were thinking like, okay, and doing all the tests on it, and it would pass every single test. But then we'd say like, okay, it's fine. And we'd put the foil back into the pile for all the club members to use. And then it would come back into the to fix bin. And this was ongoing for weeks before, but it passed all of our tests. So like, and I couldn't find a break anywhere in the wire. So at the very end, I was just like, you know what? This is too much. It keeps showing up. I'm just going to rewire it. I rewired it and never had any issues with it afterwards.
The nuclear option, just, I can't find the actual issue, so we're just going to completely redo this.
Like, I'm pretty sure, just based off of circuits, there must have been either a break or some broken insulation somewhere along the blade. And it was usually always fine until you just hit it at precisely the right spot, and then it would just die.
And that's interesting that you say that sometimes it would be a constant white light and sometimes it would be a no light, because typically those are kind of opposite reactions. Like,
I know, right? So I don't know if it was multiple problems, but still, it was just, at the end of the day, it became a rewire. After like a couple months of it lying in my bin, I just said, that's it. It's a rewire.
I am done with you. I will win this battle. And it is, even if I have to go a little over the top with it.
It worked, so.
You know what? Sometimes that's all that really matters in the end. So, and then to finish off, the final question that I have is, what is the strangest thing that you've ever seen at a tournament that you have worked? Or I suppose a tournament that you've just attended, but strangest problem that you saw at a tournament.
So, strangest tournament problem. No, okay, this isn't a strangest tournament problem. This is a funny story.
Okay.
One of my saberists is very prone to breaking blades. Very, very prone. He always will break blades. So at the beginning of the year, we charge all the students their admission fees for just club stuff, and that covers like the average broken blades per student. This kid, without fail, every single year would break at least 20 blades. So
was he chewing on them? Like, I don't understand. How do you break that many?
I don't even know. He was just really strong. The story gets good. It's it came down to the tournament, and I said, okay, well, he's fencing. I'm going to bring 10 extra saber blades. We went through all 10 saber blades that tournament. But also can't fault him completely because we did bulk buy new saber blades from a different supplier that year. And I was kind of wondering about the quality of them, just in general, because when we switched suppliers a subsequent year, he didn't break nearly as many.
Got it. So it could have either been that particular supplier or a bad badge, because I've also had that where just something went wrong with the particular badge that wasn't caught, and just all of those break near instantaneously. So
yeah, because like I remember that was a weird saber badge. I think I told you too. Like I had to sand a bunch of them just for the contacts to work too.
Did you?
Yeah.
Huh, that's weird.
It was a really weird year.
So, the things that we get up to in the armory to make things work. And see, everyone, this is why I stress that you should know the fundamental underlying circuitry, so when you get really weird problems, you can fall back on those basics and do troubleshooting from there. Well, again, thank you very much for your time, Phoenix. This has been great having you on. And everybody watching, I hope you found this video a little bit insightful and helpful for determining if you would like to become a full armorer or if you would just like to keep working on your own stuff, about sort of a little bit of an insight about what we actually do behind the scenes. So if you like this video, please be sure to like and subscribe. And as always, if you have any questions, comments, or other topics you'd like me to cover in the future, let me know down below. And I'll see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.